In many Western democracies, the relationship between the state and religion is defined by a physical concept, a strict, impenetrable wall. This barrier is meant to keep government completely isolated from religious institutions. Under this model, the state operates by ignoring faith entirely. Public institutions function under the strict assumption that religion belongs exclusively in the private lives of citizens. You see this play out in places like France, where displaying conspicuous religious symbols or wearing religious attire in public schools is strictly banned by law, a policy that frequently sparks massive public protests. The underlying logic is straightforward. By forcing the state to be totally blind to faith, the government attempts to treat every citizen exactly the same. But drop that strict blindness model into India, and it shatters. This is a massive, densely packed democracy housing some of the most complex religious demographics on the planet. We're looking at hundreds of millions of people practicing Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, and Buddhism, often living shoulder to shoulder. If the Indian government simply closed its eyes and pretended religion didn't exist in the public sphere, it wouldn't create equality. It would create a dangerous power vacuum. Without rules governing how these groups interact, the nation faces the constant threat of religious domination. A massive demographic majority could easily use its weight to suppress smaller groups, or a highly organized minority could consolidate control over everyone else. Left unchecked, that kind of imbalance quickly spirals into widespread violence, systemic discrimination, and the total loss of individual rights. Strict separation wouldn't keep the peace here. To survive, India had to engineer a completely custom set of rules. The framework they designed is embedded directly within the Indian constitution, acting as a sovereign balance among citizens. The foundational rule dictates the state remains entirely neutral. It explicitly refuses to elevate any single belief system to the status of an official state religion. But instead of aggressively ignoring these faiths, the Indian government takes the exact opposite approach. It actively and visibly supports all of them equally. You see this in how the state manages public time. The government formally recognizes and provides official public holidays for festivals across all major religions, treating them with equal civic weight. Indian secularism creates a level playing field by bringing every faith into the public swing, rather than banishing them from it. Curious, this brings up an interesting contradiction. If the government is totally neutral, how does it handle religious practices that actively harm people? The answer is a mechanism called principled intervention. It allows the secular state to legally step across the boundary of religion to correct severe imbalances. The trigger for this is very strict. The state only steps in when a specific religious tradition causes harm or violates a citizen's fundamental constitutional rights. For example, if a community tradition enforces rigid social inequality or restricts basic freedoms within its own ranks, the secular government has the legal authority to ban that practice entirely. Crucially, this mechanism is applied across the board. Any religion that breaks the overarching rules of equality is subject to the exact same intervention. The state maintains its secular nature by respecting all faiths, while firmly refusing to let any tradition serve as an excuse for human rights abuses. State neutrality, equal protection, and the authority to intervene are not just abstract concepts. They function as a practical system for maintaining everyday peace. The practical result is highly visible. Millions of citizens retain the freedom to practice their religion openly, right in the middle of public spaces. Yet, a protective boundary remains intact. While citizens worship openly, no single faith group is permitted to hijack the apparatus of the government to oppress their neighbors. It is this specific set of legal mechanics that keeps India's incredibly complex demographic mosaic from fracturing. This makes the Indian experiment a compelling case study for democracies around the world. The model shows that maintaining a religiously diverse public square does not require citizens to leave their identities at home to be treated fairly by the state. A functioning democracy can protect minority rights, prevent domination by the majority, and sustain social harmony, even when managing extreme diversity. Indian secularism thrives by holding every faith in equal respect, while ensuring every spiritual tradition operates within the legal boundaries established by the Constitution.